Well, what a day have we had. Welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. It's been an absolutely glorious green dildo day since we last spoke in this very one-sided conversation. As always, I'd like to wish you the best, and the happiest as we get into this very serious day of technical analysis on magic internet money. And we got plenty to talk about as Bitcoin actually has hit the long-term target of 11,500, now coming down a little bit, actually playing off some pretty nasty volatility in the early morning hours, at least for myself. And I want to follow up on the short and medium-term timeframes and how this kind of changes the long-term picture and all of the fun stuff along all of the world markets. Now, I want to start off with this, the most important message of the day. My man, no. I would like to share with you a very enlightening and also profound message that was shared within the program Discord yesterday, and it goes a little something like this by our poster, aptly named Moonboy. Fair enough, a good name to have in times like this. Green dildos in my face, all over my face. Give me more! Exclamation mark. Open interest officially over 2.3 billion, which we do have a confirmation of a break of the high term time frame range. That is now an area to be aware of going forwards, onwards and forwards here at the $9,900 break from about a day and a half ago now, which does mean that we now have a baseline to be measuring this open interest read off of. More importantly, we do see that the fear and greed index actually taking up quite a massive leap right there, all the way up from a 58 to a 76. We are officially the highest that we've been in probably more than half a year now. Bitcoin dominance also taking up about 2% as well, meaning that most alts taking a nice old cream pie to the face while while Bitcoin rallies up. So as always, the king leads, and the altcoin Bitcoin pair for most major assets, I'd imagine, is probably getting absolutely crushed right now. But that probably also does mean that most alts are they're probably either just staying steady versus US dollar or just not rallying up as much as Bitcoin, but I actually haven't checked myself, so we'll do a little bit of deep dive into that today, I suppose, as well. So there's been a lot of people, Bitcoin's doing well when I read the comments, and there's like, sir, could you please analyze XSP? Sir, could you please analyze LTB? Blah, blah. It's like fucking alphabet soup over here, and Jesus Christ, man, god damn it. There's some amazing things about Bitcoin going up, and there's also some less inspiring things, we'll say. Anyways, what else do we want to talk about? Well, I think that's pretty much it for here. Let's go in the actual charts right now, because that's where all the fun's being had, and Bitcoin did hit the long-term target of 11,500. I didn't really give like a time frame for this, because I don't really think that time analysis can really work, except for volatility reads, but that's statistics. That's not like a fucking crystal ball. And what do we see right here? We see the 0.5 fib retracement from the ultimate high to the ultimate low of actually the last cycle. I'm talking about the 20,000 to 3,100 low right here, being hit alongside all of the major areas that we've been looking at for the last 3 years, where Bitcoin's been getting these massive liquidity hunts above 11,500. Once again, Bitcoin has approached it. And so the fun question begins of, are we putting in just yet again another major massive high here, or is Bitcoin going to actually have a legitimate chance to break it? Well, I would say that long term, yes, it will have a chance to break it, but short term, I do think that the party's over, at least for a little bit of time, probably going sideways, maybe even test back up towards the 11,500-ish region, but don't think that Bitcoin has momentum to break it before we get a new daily, or sorry, not new daily, but new weekly. Anyways, going down to the very, very short term timeframes for Bitcoin right here, we do see that 4 hours actually still not even printing bearish divergence. So remember yesterday when we were going around this, where there was a potential for it, that was actually undone with the move back above 10,300. So again, following the trend here has been your friend and making it more or less easy. Not that trading's ever really easy, but at the end of the day, when when it does something like this, it's best to not try to fade the fucking strength. At the end of the day, still kind of just moving up one level by level. And sorry, let me go to the chart that we were following yesterday. So yesterday, I do believe that we said a move above 10,500 would propel another move up to about 11,000. 11,000 was met, and the target after that was 11,500, just following it target by target, essentially going level by level, which in times of trending does, is very much scalpable on, of course. But for the people trading the trend, I just kind of move up my stop point essentially. If I'm looking at this from a long-term perspective, just level by level, just making it rather simple, nothing too complicated other than that. And I really want to state that trades like that, trades like the ones that I know a lot of people took, especially in this community, because a lot of us were watching the 9,300ish level right here. A lot of people getting long around that level. At the end of the day, if you just can repeat that process, it quite literally can be that simple. And while it doesn't necessarily happen all the time, a little bit of patience going alongside something like that is really all that it comes down to. And I always like to pose a question to people, while it does take a lot of time, and you really don't get all that many opportunities like that across the even across like a year span, maybe a handful, probably less than 10. How many of those do you really need in order to make a living, as designated by yourself? Anyways, I think that's maybe in some ways, at least for myself, when I think like that, it's a lot more easy to kind of maintain that patience, which is usually where I see most people kind of falter from their plans. Because it's usually a thing with technical analysis and trading that it's not that people can't learn technical analysis or come up with a legitimate trading plan. It's just that they don't follow it a lot of the times. And yes, it is going to take some patience. Yes, it is going to take some fortitude. But at the end of the day, that's really all that it is in its base. And it's really ourselves and our minds, our own interpretations of these events in real time that gets in the way. Anyways, I want to speak towards something a little bit more direct here, because I've been seeing this a lot recently, and it's kind of on my mind right now. I was on I had an interview with Elliot of FUD TV yesterday. By the way, check it out. He's awesome. He's great. You should probably subscribe to him as well, because he's like one of the few news people who I think really like actually does a legitimate effort to present something different. Him and Crypto Zombie, I really like. Good friends, and I only have good things to say about them. Anyways, looking at this right here, a big comment that I saw kind of like spurned about also in my comment section as well quite a bit, is the volume on this move is low, so Bitcoin will be going down. It's a trap. Well, no, because what people are doing is they're analyzing the volume breakouts from like this region right here, not realizing that the party is actually just getting started after that point. If you're going to be looking at it on a fucking daily, then you judge it on a fucking daily, which means that you don't actually even know what's happening 6 hours into the fucking day, because you still got another 3/4 of the day left to trade, which a lot of things can happen, of which I think a lot of those people might have been perhaps humbled to see that this massive girthy spike in volume right here very much does look in line with the price action. Again, fully, I wouldn't say fully, but providing efficacy to this rally. Now, I haven't even really been using volume recently. What I actually like a lot more, and what I find a lot more dependable on, is looking at both the open interest, of which we saw open interest shoot up 100 million. As price action goes up as well, plus volume, but more importantly, volatility as well, spiking up to levels that we haven't seen since quite literally June. June of this year. So that's a couple months ago, and we are still kind of following the overall contraction phase here, which I do think speaks towards the macro, which would suggest that we actually probably don't break the macro area for a little bit of time. Bitcoin probably spent some time going sideways within this region, and when I say within this region, I mean between about 10,500 and 11,500 right here. But overall, all those things working together is essentially what you're looking for. And this is coming after a period of extremely low volatility for almost a month straight, essentially, after a 3-month contraction phase, just getting extremely aggressive down here, quite literally all the way since late June to where we are right now. So about a month of single digit volatility single digit historical volatility percentile, which means that this is this rather aggressive. Anyways, I actually would like to show the all-time HVP as well, but unfortunately Bullahs is still working on it. So fair enough. Perhaps something to talk about later on in this week. Anyways, I am saying a whole lot of things, but not actually talking about anything that's too relevant to what Bitcoin's doing right now. Okay, so what am I looking for right now? Well, essentially, I do think that Bitcoin's kind of hit its easy targets, easy in quotes, but essentially hit its targets at 11,500, and now it's time to play a little bit of sideways and down. I would be looking for 10,500 to get hit and retested. over the next week or two or whatever it ends up being. I don't really have timing for these sorts of things. Probably sooner rather than later, as this asset's starting to act quite volatile once again. But I'd look for a range be formed here and 10,500 be tested once again. As long as Bitcoin is above 10,500, I do look at this as overall still more or less healthy on the higher term timeframes, and will give another test back up towards 11,500, of which I don't even actually have it charted out on this particular chart. Let's go to my other chart that we were following yesterday. Yeah, there we go. So there's your measure move right there coming out of this ascending triangle that was hit yesterday, basically right around the 11,500-ish region. Also the gap on CME's present from about a year ago in August, very early August, 8th of August, actually right here, 786 fib. If you're looking at this as a bearish retracement from the high of 14,000 to the low more recently, of last year, 3,100, and also the 0.5 as we saw on a bullish retracement from the ultimate high of 20,000 to the ultimate low of 3,100 thus far. All these things should have natural confluence with each other. That's what essentially makes them good areas to be managed off of. But as it stands right now, I would be looking for Bitcoin to play out some short-term sideways and down. As there's going to be a lot of people taking profits off that. There's going to be a lot of people, selling the gap. There's going to be a lot of people, essentially playing the long-term 3-year liquidity zone here, as we've been looking at. I mean, this is still very much present and very much valid. So I would have the same sort of interpretation of it as I've had for the last couple of years, essentially, and that is this: as long as Bitcoin is living below 11,500, it's not really a time to be getting like macro super excited or anything like that. And essentially, that would also imply that on the other side of things, if Bitcoin can close above this region, especially like a nice girthy green delta closure above 11,500, then the macro behavior has actually had a change behavior, which in this case would suggest that we can have price targets, like I've been saying, to 13,500, 16,500, and 20,000. But generally speaking, just the macro would be more or less up, bullishly biased for the long term, and Bitcoin's going to go into another cycle, is what it looks like. And the way that this chart's shaping up right now, I mean, you can kind of look at the last 3 years, and with these last pair of higher lows right here, this is starting to look like one massive ascending triangle on the macro here as well, with an apex coming in. Somewhere around, it'd actually be quite far out there, but an apex would be coming in around actually April 2022. So this still could take some time. I always do like to exercise caution within these regions, because yes, it is, it's very exciting right now. It's very interesting. And I do think that Bitcoin will actually have a chance to resolve itself right here, right now. But I do want to show that statistically speaking, usually these things would be more likely to break actually about a year out from now. However, with the monthly closing relatively soon, within the next couple of days, on Friday, I believe it is. Sorry, not on Friday, but on Friday's closure is when the monthly will close. If the monthly closes anywhere above that 10,000, let me go. Okay, yeah, let's see. Where exactly was this? Yeah, 10,750, which are actually healthily above right now. I would also constitute that as a very, 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 very likely to drive another target towards this prior backfill right here at about 14,000. We've already kind of hit it, and because we've already kind of hit it and played off a nice pullback on it on the monthly, it would be more or less likely to break the next time that it does approach it. So, as far as this next sort of week goes, I do think that looking for the monthly close is going to be the next big piece of the puzzle. Keep in mind that monthly momentum oscillators are looking more or less steady here, more or less good. So while I do think that short and medium term Bitcoin will be trading sideways and down, probably retest 10,500, it all depends on how the monthly closes, and this would have right now a bullish bias. Now, of course, we haven't closed it just yet, but if it closes like this or higher, I would very much look at that to drive another run towards 13.5 to 14,000, and then we can talk about targets beyond that. But as of right now, the monthly Stokes are not just nice and erect, but they are rejecting the bearish control zone. And we also do see that the monthly Jewel, for what it's worth, and I don't really put too much weight on this because it doesn't have enough history here, but it is giving you a halt of your long signal right here, triggered in April of this year, confirmed in May of this year, and monthly RSI is looking actually rather healthy here as well. And I really like, I really like the RSI for a strong trendy behavior, and this shows that on the whole, on the long term, this is more or less healthy. Putting in this last little drive on the exponential and then bouncing off it is looking pretty damn good. Now, I want to talk about something that I I briefly showed in the Discord yesterday, and then I very quickly took it away. Sometimes I have little tricks and secrets like that. No, just kidding. It's a fucking dumb thing to say. But I wanted to save it for video today, because I want to actually explain it first before anything else, and let me go to my other chart actually, because I think I already have it right here, nice and fresh one. Yeah, there we go. Looking at the weekly CME chart, and this is again CME's, not spot. I think spot kind of has it as well, but CME is just a little bit more of an obvious read. It does look like Bitcoin has somewhat of an inverted head and shoulders going on right here with the double left shoulder, which is which certainly can happen. Volume signature is workable for it. We do have the nice declining volume from left to right. Neckline would be right here at the 10th of February high at 10,500 essentially, and that would also mean that the resolution point is there as well for the wick traders, for the breakout traders. They probably actually took position above 10,500 tick. For the confirmation traders, they'll probably wait until we get a weekly closure above 10.5. So this would suggest that we probably actually do retest that area at probably by next week. But that would also very likely be an opportunity. And of course, it becomes an opportunity, at least for myself, in the way that I look at trading, because it offers up two pieces to really be looking at this at, in the way that, as long as Bitcoin's above 10,500, that is generally the narrative as far as what I'm looking at right here. And guess what? There is a measure move to be made off this as well. And guess where it's pointing towards? It's actually pointing towards 15,000, in fact, which 15,000 on CMEs would align with, CMEs have a natural price premium on Bitcoin spot price action, because Bitcoin's more or less bullish right now, and so it'd probably have like a right now it has about $100 premium. It might have a little bit more at that point if Bitcoin were to approach that, but it would align with around the same area. So if we are to look at that and measure that up with Bitcoin on the monthly, you can kind of see that they all come in the same area. So that would be my next target if Bitcoin does take out 11,500, especially on a weekly closure. That'd be the next big thing that that I'd be looking at. Also, a daily probably does it as well, but a weekly would be a lot more confidence inducing. As higher term timeframes typically do rule the world. As we go back to our charts over here, I just want to check out momentum also just for CMEs, which, by the way, we're seeing weekly CMEs cross back up to the upside, rejecting, even getting out of the bullish control zone right there. Very, very strong reads, and this will remain to the upside as long as Bitcoin is closing above 10,950. So this is also on CME, by the way. On spot, it is a couple $100 below that at 10,750. So I would look at that as this weekly closure's next big area to kind of maintain. If Bitcoin does maintain that, I would be looking for this to get another try at 11,500 coming into next week. But for right now, that doesn't really take away from what I'm looking at right here, which is mostly looking sideways and down. Here's the problem though. Even the 4-hour doesn't have bearish divergence just yet. And I'm curious if any time frames do even lower than that. 3-hour has no bearish divergence. Bi-hourly has bearish divergence, yes. So, short term, I do think, yeah, and actually the easy target on that is probably coming down to 10,750, but realistically, I think it gets another drive to 10,550-ish region. We put out some sideways in this range, in this $1,000 range right here, and that's actually going to be considered more or less healthy. But for the crypto moon boys and doom boys, they're probably going to be taking big positions off that, when realistically it would just be considered a nice little healthy sideways consolidation. It's just we're dealing with big numbers here, so when you're dealing with big numbers, naturally the ranges are going to be fucking massive. That's the beauty of Bitcoin. It gives you $1,000 ranges when it's fucking consolidating, and we just played one out between 9,000 and 10,000 for the last 3 months. So there you go. Anyways, this right here, this right here sounds like a song. But this right here, it presents kind of both sides. I do think that we get another short, very, very short term. I'd be looking for this drive down to extend towards 10,750, 10,800-ish region, probably a short term bounce there, and then very likely continuation down to that 10,550-ish region, and let the momentum oscillators on the short term timeframes reset. As we do see historical volatility percentile is very likely signaling that this move is coming into a short term conclusion here. It's starting to level off. Even the moving average on this is getting up in like the 99 percentile, which is quite aggressive, and that's seen across all time frames up to a 4-hour, up to a 4-hour, which is rather significant here. So I do like this for judging the kind of maturity of this current move, and it very, very likely is going to take some sideways and down here. I think that I think that the last day was kind of a special day. Looking at the 4-hour Stokes, we are going to see them cross down with any sort of a price closure on this next 4-hour dildo below 11,069. Great number right there. And I want to see if this is agreed upon amongst all the different lower term timeframes. 3-hour showing 11,139, so it's actually a higher price point. So that would again say pressure is down. 2-hour shows 11,200. Again, yet again another higher level, which would suggest that short-term momentum is to the downside and getting more aggressive. And hourly showing actually 5 ones, so a little bit of an oddball there, but very likely only speaks to the very short term. So short term, down to like 10.8, probably bounce there, and then probably continuation, into next week, maybe like 10,005. And at which point I would really be looking at 10,500 to be a major bias changer on a higher term time frame here, of course. But as long as Bitcoin's closing 12-hour and daily dildos above 10,500, I look at this as more or less a healthy consolidation, getting ready for likely another run at 11,500. But below 10,500, that's where things start to get a little bit scary, though. It's not a death sentence in and of itself, and we don't even have bearish divergence even forming on the daily as it is right now. So that does very likely align with another spike up to 11,500, at which point Bitcoin probably does put in a little bit, and then and then we play out a move. So even like, while I do think that like very short term is down here, probably does get another try at 11,500, but I don't think that is momentum to break today or this week or anything like that. But but I'd be looking for bearish divergence to form off that, which right now it's not even present at all. I'm like breaking my own rule there with getting a little bit excited about something like that. But anyways, the point that I was trying to make is below 10,500, which is, do I have it marked off on this chart? No, we need to go back to this one, huh? Yeah, 10,500, which is this level right here. I would look for a quick return if Bitcoin did actually break this. And when I say break it, I mean, at the very least, a 2-hour or 4-hour dildo closure. Then I look for extension all the way down to $10,000 even, with bounces at 10 to 50-ish region, and 10,000 would be the next major area. As long as Bitcoin's above that, you could look at it as maybe just a retest of the ascending triangle. I do not think that that's a good thing to come back down there and test it, but if you want to be extra conservative, I would be looking at that as the next sort of long-term pivot. And if Bitcoin does break this level back to the downside 10,000, I'd be looking for a quick move back down to the $9,100 range, at which point this is going to look extremely bearish. But for right now, looking fine and looking like on the higher term time frames, looking good more or less. Looking at the 2-day, we still see that the 2-day actually hasn't even closed just yet, but 2-day momentum oscillators are looking still erect here, just getting to the bullish control zone for the first time in a few months actually. Looking at 2-day RSI, same thing here as well. Not going to be creating any sort of divergences, making clear higher highs above all the last prior ones, going all the way back to February. I'm sure that someone will say, but Krown, what about May of 2019? Yeah, May of 2019. That was more than a year ago. And when you're using a default period on your RSI, like a 14 period, well, it's a little bit too far away for it to really have that much efficacy. And from what I've seen in my experience, looking at the 3-day, what do we have here? We have more or less the same thing, just looking fine here. Realistically, same sort of regression that we bounced off of, going all the way back to October 2019, by the way. And once again, getting the lows, rejecting the bearish control zone, and plenty of room to the upside there. So long term, I still do like this run. It's just short and medium term, probably sideways and down, while also encompassing another test back up to 11.5-ish region. So yeah, I'd really be waiting for the weekly and monthly closure now for the long term and macro. I would not really use anything less than that, because they do have such massive implications here. Really can change around, a lot of, a lot. However, short term, there's so much volatility here that there's plenty of opportunity regardless. Okay, all right. So let's see, what else do we want to talk about while we're here? 12-hour, we haven't even spoken about this just yet, but 12-hour Stokes looking a little bit toppy as well. Will remain with upside posturing as long as Bitcoin's closing above about 11,000 essentially. But same thing here as well. No bearish divergence going to be present just yet on a 12-hour. Which likely does align with another try higher. And then if we put in a lower high on the RSI, then now would be the time to really be looking for that pullback, very likely back down to 10.5 overall. even historical volatility percentile in the 12 hours actually not even spiking up all that, it is spiking up quite a bit, but you can see that it's still within the context of this greater, of this greater contraction phase going all the way back to March, which is encompassing this low right here. So all this is to really be considered one piece of the, one piece of the whole puzzle, which essentially would suggest that we are going to resolve that piece either above 11,500, as I've been saying, or below, below 6,900 on the other side, within that, within that apex. So what else can we look at that that would help us kind of formulate a little bit more of a bias here as far as the good old bias boners go? Well, I think we've kind of said everything that I really want to say on Bitcoin here. Let's go over and check out some of the other market leaders, of which Mr. Buteral has been leading a lot of this run. And there's something weird going on with my chart. I think I'm charting on Poloniex right now because it has the most price action history for Mr. Buteral. And yeah, it shows a massive wick up all the way to about 380, which is actually funnily enough around that area, that targeted area that we had yesterday on a break above 310. On the weekly. Now, if we go down to a daily, it actually doesn't even have that wick up there. And if we go to other exchanges, it won't have it either. But I do think that it's this is Finex, I believe. Or no, sorry, this is BitMexico. And yeah, it got up to 335, but that's not the same thing as 380. So while it does very likely play off that region if we do get there, I do think that that's just a bad print for Poloniex, because Poloniex is just, well, it's fucking Poloniex. But more importantly for Mr. Buteral is that did get that weekly closure above all the last prior weekly highs, going all the way back to June 2019, and more or less actually do think that this target does get hit towards 377, 380ish region overall, and then we will very likely play a pullback from there. Now, looking at this right here, it kind of has the same implications as the 10,500ish region for Bitcoin, and I'm speaking directly towards a 290ish region here. And for I was actually looking a little bit toppy here. Let's see what it's looking like. Bearish divergence was confirmed, but you already kind of played out the easy move from that, and that was a very innocuous 10% move down almost. And I do think that it actually probably comes back down and tests around 290ish region. However, I would be looking for a bounce there as well. It really comes down to, similar to Bitcoin, the next weekly and monthly closure, which the monthly closure will be sooner rather than the weekly, as it happens on Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And any sort of a monthly closure above 290, and I would be targeting that 370 region on the next move, with very likely a retest back down to 290. But overall, Mr. Buteral looking very, very similar to Bitcoin in that regard, in the sense that it is, it has confirmed a pair of higher lows on the macro right here, and you have that nice, well-defined horizontal resistance coming in at just above 310ish region. So that to me is the next big one, and I do believe that we've actually already even confirmed it. Oh, and Mrs. Kitchen's up now. It's time to clank those fucking spoons. Get your forks out, motherfuckers. Jesus, man. Anyways, nope, she has to pee first. So yeah, looking at this, just kind of looks like a more aggressive chart of Bitcoin right now, as far as the short term goes. So let's go over and check out some of the other fun things to be looking at in this market, of which I want to follow up on NASDAQ. We said likely a bounce to start off the day yesterday. Do you believe that we got the bounce? Actually, we hit the target as well to 10.7-ish region. And now I'm not so sure on it. So I do think that this was an easy move yesterday. The question is now, have we actually seen the top in traditional markets, or is this actually going to reaccumulate here? And I do really I think that this is really the time to be defensive, if you're on either side, but more so if you're on the downside, because the downside trigger for a trade like this, at least in the way that I look at it, and this is not financial advice, and this is very far away from financial advice, and I'm not a financial advisor, but as long as it's above 10,550, I cannot get bearish on it just yet. If it does break back down below about 10,550, especially on a daily total closure, then yes, I would be looking at this as a nice weekly reversal with a target initiated down to low 10,000, and very likely does drive into the rest of the markets as we see rotations emerge from this last major run. While NASDAQ was making new all-time highs, most of the things were actually consolidating well below their last major high. So regardless of how you're looking at this right now, the short term to the upside is a little bit more diabolical. I do think that an hourly closure above 10,750 would initiate another test back up to the top side blue box, which is all the way up to about 10.9-ish region. And that's going to make this look a lot more attractive from a long-term perspective, getting another leg up. But for right now, this is the day to actually just watch as far as I'm concerned. I do think that short-term it will come back down and test around 10,600-ish region, but that doesn't really help my bias at all as far as looking at this as a healthy consolidation before another move to the upside or an actual reversal. I think that's very much yet to be seen. And I'd really look for it. And the reason why I'm talking about this and spending so much time here is because I do believe that techs and NASDAQ especially are going to be driving the general world markets here, as essentially they have been. And a strong NASDAQ essentially implies that, the rest of the market very likely gets another chance to rally. And when looking at E-mini futures for SPY, I'm sure a lot of people got very bearish off this closure last week. It was a potential yes, and I would have agreed with that. However, no continuation was had, and this to me is looking like it's going to get another try up at least to last week's high at 323 region. But realistically, any sort of a daily closure above there, 326 region actually, any sort of a daily closure above there, and I'd still maintain my target of 3336. This fucking area right here, this goddamn gap. Okay, there you go. There you go. These numbers are getting too damn big. We need to cut them in half or like by a tenth. But yeah, by the same token, to the downside, it's actually a lot more easier here. Just taking out, what is this, 23rd of July's low, so last Friday low, and I'd be looking for another move back down to the median of this range at about 314 region, 315-ish region, somewhere down around here. But for right now, I do think that it gets another swipe up at the top side of that 326 region. So I would be respectful of the upside here still. And with any sort of a monthly closure again on Friday, which is also going to be the weekly closure as well, anywhere above 324 especially, I'm bullish for new all-time highs coming into August and September. And I'll just say that straight up. There'd be absolutely nothing bearish about this chart long term if it closed above this area right here. It'd be still in the process of trending to the upside. I mean, on the monthly, it never even put in a lower low. This is your last low right here. This is a slightly higher low. It's ever so slight, but it is present. And we'd be closing on new higher highs as well. It's still trending. And so the world markets can continue onwards and upwards. And this is all coming along the side of people, remember how many people were fucking bearish around here saying, this is the Great Depression. We're going down. No. Krown bad. and I don't want to make this come off as arrogant or tooting my own horn or anything like that. That's not my intention with saying this next piece. But I do think that is really important to kind of meditate on, because that was the time, if there was any fucking time, to be a contrarian when everyone is screaming that the world is burning. And what happens? This dildo happens right here. As soon as this dildo was put in right here, that was the fucking signal that the low was in. That was a signal that the low was in. And then the next week, there was no questions about it. Back above the 200 simple and 200 exponential average, this looks like a massive runaway. And this is really, 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 really important, because that will happen again in the future, across whatever different assets that you might be looking at. And you'll probably notice the same things as far as market sentiment goes. And yes, this can work to both the upside and the downside. So, this sort of emotional condition is rather powerful. But that was a key area, and we've been bullish on it ever since. Now, I mean more so on NASDAQ, which was just, even more aggressive here. It didn't even break the 200 simple and 200 exponential average, just onwards and upwards to the fucking moon. Looking at some of the other market leaders like Tesla, if the rest of the market goes up, is this one going to get another try at its highs? Probably, yeah. And I do think that short term, it probably does pop back up towards 1600. But I do feel like if anything is put in its major high, it's actually Tesla. Looking at the weekly right here, it is going to, I would have to get bullish back on it again, looking for new all-time highs if 1700 is just even ticked above realistically, or especially a weekly close above 1650. Now, I do think that short term it does test 1600. That does not imply that it closes a weekly or monthly above there. But if it does, or especially 1650, I would have to be looking for new all-time highs. But for right now, I do still think that very likely it's probably seen the high. But if the rest of the markets go up, man, it's hard. I mean, everything just kind of gets a free ride, I suppose. Looking at Apple, we see more of a reversal-ish type dildo right here, especially on the weekly. Short term, I do think that this one gets another pop back up towards 385 again, but I do think that it probably finds a short-term high there. Microsoft, same thing. I'd be looking for a pop back up towards maybe 308-ish region, maybe even 309, but I'd be looking for a short-term top to be put in there as well. And that I really want to be focusing on the weekly and monthly closures on Friday to judge, is the party over for now or not. Keep in mind that the monthly is looking like this right now on something like Microsoft. I would say that would be a pretty damn good top, very likely. Apple, same thing. Tesla less so, actually. So all these are going to be very, 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 very important to watch coming into Friday's action. What else we want to look at? I know that a lot of people want to look at shitcoins. Yeah, let's look at some shitcoins, motherfuckers. Here's Link. Link's actually the least shitty of the shitcoins, just because, well, you can't really hate an uptrend that's been going for 3 years fucking straight. Do you think that it bounces here? Probably bounces back up towards the mid 70,000 Satoshis region. But the question is here: is the run done for now or not? I would be looking for a bounce here, regardless of whether you think that this is bullish or bearish. Coming into the monthly closure, this could look a little bit nasty for sure. I wouldn't judge it right now, but I do think that it's rather bouncy here. This is letting all the momentum oscillators come down quite aggressively, which is going to allow it to reset quite aggressively as well. And look at this, we have potentially major hidden bullish divergence going all the way back to, even like these lows right here, as RSI is making a significantly lower low. This is like so fucking aggressive. I can't recall the last time that I've seen something this aggressive, actually. So assuming that it can trade a little bit sideways here for a day, I would be looking for that to play back out for, at the very least, a move towards 75,000 Satoshis, and maybe we'll see where that lands at around Friday's closure for the monthly. And that'll drive my next buys. But short-term, medium-term, I'd be looking for this to pop back up. Cardano, what's Cardano doing? This one looks a lot more toppy to me. Short-term, I do think that it rallies back up as well, probably back up to like 1375 region. But this one looks like a top actually could be in here as well. And what's a little bit sombering about this is that, we still have the weekly lower highs as it stands. Did hit the 1200 Satoshi target to the downside from last week. So now short term and medium term, I think that it bounced back up here, and then I want to reassess it after that. I don't have a call on whether I think that this one's topped out yet or not. We don't have enough information just yet. I need to see the next move first, and then very likely the monthly and weekly closure. This one's had pretty phenomenal run thus far. Just looking at it percentage wise, 225%. I think it'd be very relevant to think that this would be a good place for a medium term consolidation sideways and downwards after this short term pop back up. Maybe we could look at Mr. B-roll versus Bitcoin. I believe that we hit our long term target there of 0.03 something rather. 3.1 right here. Put on the drawing tools. Yep, there we go. There's a measure move right there. Hit it and down. I do think that this one trades a little bit further south, maybe down to like 27.7. But overall, need to see the weekly closure here as well. Do you think that it's more or less in a bouncy posturing here, regardless of the fact of whether you're bullish or bearish as well? Maybe has another spike down first like 285 or maybe even that 277 region. But overall, I'll be looking for bounce to merge from that region. And then I really want to see how it sets up coming into the monthly closure, because a monthly closing like this would be more or less fine. A monthly closure anywhere above 277 region actually looks more or less good. But there's a lot of days trading left between now and Friday, of course, so a lot can happen. Anyways, what else should we look at on this good old shitcoin smorgasbord here? Maybe Mr. Ripple's nipples. How is he doing during all this upside pleasure? Kind of bucking the trend here as well. Hasn't necessarily confirmed a higher high above April highs here. Did get the death cross on the weekly. This is still, when you have your charts to choose from, I just don't see the allure of something like this, and literally like a fucking 3-year downtrend. But with everything else rallying, if anything's gonna have a chance to go, it'd be now. So I don't really have anything to add on that. I shouldn't even be looking at this shit. Monero, same sort of thing. We did hit. I don't know if did I have a target here? No, I don't know if I had a target here. It looks like my drawing tools are gone, so I guess not. I guess I just have this guy down here. Fair enough. All right. Well, fair enough. I don't really have anything to add. I don't really have anything to say about that. I mean, obviously, your last major high here was February highs at $90 above there. I get bullish for a move back up to 120ish region, but for right now, it's probably just going to follow the rest of the market. EOS. Okay. This is enough. This is enough of this shit. It's all the same. It's not even that it's all the same. It's just I don't want this to turn into like a shitcoin request fucking thing. I'd much rather focus on traditional markets, Bitcoin, and some forex pairs, of which we should go check out on Eurodollar. We did. Oh my god, this one actually smashed yesterday. Smashed the 117.5, 118 target. I would be looking for I'd be looking for short-term pop back up towards 117.5, and then very likely play out some sideways and down after that into the weekly closure. With particular interest on the 116.5 region. Monthly is looking very, 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 very nice and girthy right now, and I would probably be looking for a pullback to the 115-ish region, 115.5-ish region coming into August, assuming that we close here. But overall, I'd be looking for this run to extend again. If it closes here or higher, especially all the way up to 119.5, 120-ish region. At that point, I actually do think that a major high could be put in. And same thing for Dixie, just the opposite way. 91.5 is my target here. It is just absolutely crumbling, but I think we have FOMC meeting on Wednesday. It's either this Wednesday or next Wednesday, and I'd imagine that that's going to be a nice little area to have some intervention with. So keep an eye on that. But for right now, with the dollar absolutely crumbling here, it's going to benefit most trading pairs against it, as well as it naturally do. Anyways, have we hit everything now? Maybe a few more forex, perhaps. Go look at Swiss franc dollar. What do you know? Hitting that 109 target. Very, very nice. What about pound dollar? Almost hitting our 130 target, but still in this massive descending triangle. So I would be looking for party to be a little bit over short term and medium term if it does hit there. I mean, it's a hard chart to love. Yen, US dollar, going to have a chance to break out here as well. Any sort of a monthly closure above 0.955 would look massively good for a pretty big run up towards 0.99 region, actually. I do have a measured move here pointed even higher than that towards 0.01 essentially. So yeah, long term would look pretty damn good, but I really want to see the monthly closure. It's looking good. It looks like it very likely does pull through. I'd like to see confirmations though, just because I am that fucking nerd. Okay, cool. So we looked at this. Do we have anything to look at on MACD or anything? It's increasing momentum once again. As Bitcoin breaks a massive area, all these things, coming into confluence together again with even the daily MACD breaking that 9,300-ish region. Also, we put on the Trollinger bands. We can see. Let's get everything else off, I suppose. We can see on the Trollinger bands that. Holy shit, man. Yeah. Look at where the top Trollinger band comes in at 10,600. So I do think that we retest that region. We're living very, very, very aggressively on the outside of it. But as long as we're living on the outside of it, I do look for this, trend to continue on that time frame. So that does offer up, again, a very big range. And guess what? We're coming down right now to that 10.8 region, it looks like. And yeah, okay, fair enough. All right, let's get out the probabilities chart. There was a great comment the other day too, which shows me that I don't think that people understand what probabilities really mean. Someone was saying that the probability chart has been wrong for like 2 weeks straight now. Well, no, it hasn't. Probabilities are probabilities. It just means that your understanding of probabilities might not be with reality, because anything that has an above zero probability has a chance to happen. It's just relative to each other. So something can have a 40% probability and a 20 and another thing can have a 20% probability. They can both happen. It's just the 40% one is more likely. It's all the same. So some people might find that helpful, some people might not. I would imagine that the people who find it helpful are the people who are trading options. For the people who are not trading options, probably just a bunch of gook. And let's see what we got here. So what area do I even use for my short-term ranges, or is there even a good one? I mean, realistically, because volatility is actually exploding right now, I would not fuck around with this. I would say use the 11,500 region to the upside, use the 10.5 region to the downside. Those are going to be the most relevant, and anything less than that is going to be just maybe a little bit too floaty and flighty to really make much sense of to begin with. And even here, the probabilities of these areas getting exceeded and closed above or below on a daily closure are like relatively reasonable to happen. 11,500 probability is 17.20%. Oh, here it comes. Here it fucking comes. Clank, clank, clank. 10,500 to the downside, showing 12.25% probability. So both of those are decently likely to happen. But what do I really think that happens? I think that we play out the 80% or sorry, the 70% probability that its range is between there, which is more or less healthy and would maintain the long-term bullish bias. Looking at the error correcting Boolean pigs moms, looking like it is losing a little bit of momentum there. The non-error correcting one is actually still gaining momentum, so very interesting. But alongside of this, all of the rings are, of course, maintaining a positive slope. And on a 12-hour, we do see that this is printing 10.5% probability to the upside versus 5.5% probability to the downside. The above target probability, again, has much larger implications with the macro, as that would suggest, we can once again have targets into the 13,500, 16,000, 20,000 type shit. Moon boy type shit starts to get a little bit crazy, and I don't even feel comfortable talking about it, to be honest with you. Below 10,500 really only speaks to like a long-term move, very likely retesting 9,900 to 10,000. Below there we can start to talk about major massive fake outs and all the downside targets that would very likely emerge from it. But for right now, I respect the upside. As far as the higher term timeframes go, medium and short term timeframes, a little bit of down, a little bit of sideways is good for the soul. And this video is 45 minutes too fucking long, motherfuckers. Sorry about that. I'm swearing way too much today. Understand that my vulgarity is never intended to offend. It's just intended as, well, it's mainly a lazy way of expressing myself when, making these videos. Because otherwise, if you have to like censor yourself, it would become like a drag, and I don't really need, who needs that, man? Anyways, okay, so I'm trying to find a good time frame here to be judging things off of. Yes, I do still think that short term we have a little bit more of a drive lower, and I do think that 10.6 or 10.5 gets tested sometime in the next week. But as long as we're above 10.5 region, I do think that overall this will get another try at 11,500ish region, and any sort of and I really want to see the monthly closure here. Does the monthly close above 10,800? I'm very likely looking for 11,500 to not just get retested again, but maybe even broken, as crazy as it sounds to say. And realistically, only time will tell. So for right now, I'd really only be looking at the lower term time frames, funnily enough, because I do think that the higher term time frames are more or less played out here. So a little bit of short term down, a little bit of short term up within this range. A resolution probably comes next week if I had to guess, but at the end of the day, the levels are well documented, and so I'll leave you with that. I'd like to wish you the best once again. Take care, and until next time.